Welcome to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Noethling. You are about to discover impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you, so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Be sure you visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com. While you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now tune in, get ready, and enjoy the journey of emerging as a leader of exception in the 21st century.
Welcome, everyone, to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast. I'm your host, Vicki Noethling, coming to you from Roswell, Georgia. The goal of this podcast is to bring topics and guests that will empower you to become that confident leader and take your business and your life to the next level. Today, I'm very excited to have with me Alan Lazaros as my guest. And let me tell you a little bit about Alan. At age 2, his father passed away in a car accident. And at age 26, after getting into a nearly fatal car accident himself, he questioned everything he was doing in his life. He questioned who he was, the choices he was making. He was at an all-time low, filled with regret. He searched for answers and found 2 of the brightest lights he had ever seen. The first bright light was a book by Bronnie Ware entitled The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. And the second was a TED Talk by Tony Robbins. Both resources helped him find his way and guided him to make choices going all in on self-improvement to design a life of meaning and purpose. On this self-improvement journey, Alan has learned he believes in a heart-driven, no BS approach to inspiring, motivating, educating others on what really it takes to get to the next level. Today, we're going to talk about how to create the most profitable and positively impactful business possible. Please join me in welcoming my guest, Alan Lazaros. Alan, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for that awesome intro. And you, in your intro, mentioned getting to the next level, which is exactly what I focus on.
Yeah.
And so it's very, very aligned.
And I always ask a simple question in the beginning. What part of the country do you call home? Where do you live?
Massachusetts, Southern Mass.
Massachusetts.
Yeah, right on the border of Rhode Island. A little town called Uxbridge.
So there was a little bit more to your bio. I'm going to let you just talk about that. You say that your mission is helping others design fulfilling lives and their unique potential. So you have expertise in several areas. Why don't you talk about those different areas that you bring to the table for the people you serve?
So underneath all of it is I was always big into math and science. And I always, as a kid, wanted to be a math teacher. And I ended up becoming a computer engineer. But I used to, as a
typical.
kid,
It happens so often, my goodness.
And so I did computer engineering, but when I was a kid, I said I wanted to be a math teacher. And then I kind of decided that, unfortunately, at the time, math teachers didn't make enough money, at least from my perspective. And now I teach business owners math, and I help them with the science of really these 5 words, which is longevity, sustainability, consistency, improvement, and scalability. And to me, it's how long do you intend to be in business? How sustainable is the business that you're creating? How consistent can you be on the important fundamentals? How much do you improve over time? And then scale. Is what you're doing scalable? And that's what I do mainly now. I have 18 clients, primarily business owners, although there's a couple, one's an 18-year-old who's younger, but primarily business owners. And we also have a podcast production company, and we help podcasters as well. So my business partner coaches podcasters. I coach business owners. And so now I kind of get to fulfill my childhood dream of being a math teacher, but I'm a math teacher for business owners instead.
And teachers still don't make enough money. My husband was a math
Agreed.
teacher for 40 years.
Oh, he was.
Yes.
I respect that
Retired
very
now.
deeply. Yeah.
So, what have you learned about self-improvement that will improve the industry?
The self-improvement industry in particular. Number one, it has been a little bit alarming to me, for lack of better phrasing, how non-holistic a lot of people are. And when it comes to their improvement, you know, and I had dozens of mentors and several coaches in the last 9 years. You had mentioned the car accident. That was at 26. I'm now 35, even though I still look 15.
Yeah, you do.
And I'm still hoping to hit puberty in my 30s. But over the last 9 years, I went all in on self-improvement. And at the beginning, it was all the standard self-improvement books, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People and John Maxwell, and then High Performance Habits by Brendon Burchard and all this kind of stuff. And as I studied the industry more and more and more, I realized that a lot of the industry is not super holistic. And this is kind of how it happened for me. So when I first started in the self-improvement space, I was kind of half in the fitness industry and the other half was in the self-improvement industry. I was a fitness model, fitness coach, fitness competitor, and I was coaching clients on how to get fit and healthy. And for some reason, I would go to these fitness events and there wasn't a ton of self-improvement, but there was a lot of fitness improvement. And then I would go to self-improvement events and there wasn't that much fitness. And it didn't make any sense to me. It broke my brain. And I now realize in hindsight that when something frustrates you, it means it's your purpose. It means you're supposed to do something about it, right? If you're upset when people don't recycle, you probably have a calling to help the environment.
Yeah.
And so for me, it just bothers me when people aren't holistic. And so what I want to do to help the industry is health, wealth, and love. So health is physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. Wealth is how you make your money, how much you make, and then where you invest it, where you spend it or invest it. And then love, which is intimate relationship first. I have a podcast with my intimate partner, Emilia. It's called the Conscious Couples Podcast, and we coach couples and married couples, people all over the world, which is wild because we just started it free a couple of years ago. We just started coaching couples, talking relationships. We called it Relationship Talks. But anyways, so health, wealth, and love. Love is intimate relationship first, family, kids, clients, mentors, mentees, that kind of thing. And so to me, it's health, wealth, and love, and it's like a tripod. And I don't want to be healthy and not wealthy. I don't want to be wealthy and in love, but not healthy. To me, I had a mentor once that was super wealthy and, you know, the CEO of a very famous robotics company. And I saw his health and I saw that he took better care of his cars than his own family. And I just knew that that wasn't for me.
Yeah.
And you can reverse engineer everyone's career and you can go, okay, they got really good at these 3 things. And for me, I just kind of knew I want to be holistic. I don't want to be healthy and not wealthy. I don't want to be wealthy and not healthy. And I definitely don't want to be healthy and wealthy and not in love. And so it's way harder. I will say that it's exponentially harder to be improving in all areas simultaneously, but it is far more fulfilling, I think. And it's been a 9-year journey and it's been really, really challenging, but I'm definitely the happiest, healthiest, and most productive and well-rounded version of myself, although I still struggle regularly.
Yeah. That's because you are always evolving, always growing and changing, and that makes you struggle to get to the next level. If it
Always.
was easy, everybody would do it.
So true.
So why are you, what's the difference from you being fulfilled, if I'm thinking of that robotics person, and happy? And I think people confuse this all the time.
So I have this thing that I have a theory and I've always been kind of existential. Even growing up, I was always asking tough questions. And after 26, that car accident, I really started asking the tough questions. But I remember when I was a kid, people would say, well, these are the best years of your life. And I remember thinking, God, I hope not.
Yeah.
Because high school years were really tough for me. My stepdad left when I was 14. You know, this, that, and the other thing. But I remember people would always say, like, these are the best years of your life. And I remember thinking, like, hell no, no, I hope not. I really hope not. And it turns out, and I would look around and I would see these really unfulfilled people, really unhappy people. That's the label that I used to use, is happy, really unhappy people. I saw marriages that were not fulfilled. I saw, you know, a lot of drugs, a lot of alcohol. I saw a lot of unhappy, miserable people who go to jobs they don't like. And I'm not kidding. It wasn't great. Where I grew up was not great. And I just remember thinking, like, and I said this to my mom. I remember my mom said, why does intelligence matter so much to you? Because I was definitely someone who was really, I think, naturally pretty smart. And I was always asking these tough questions, and I was always future oriented and goal oriented. And I always wanted to change the world and improve everything. And my mom was like, why can't it be just enough to be nice? You know, why does intelligence matter so much to you? And I remember at the time, I was in my early 20s, and I thought that was a really ignorant question because, you know, what's the difference between you and your dog, right? You can think ahead and you can create things that your dog can't create. So intelligence is really important, right? What's the difference between a smartphone and a dumb phone? One of them can do more. But that my ego 20-year-old version, to answer your original question, was I'm trying to figure out the formula to not end up old and miserable like everybody else. And while that sounded harsh, I meant it. I really wanted to figure out, like, what makes the difference? Like, why are these certain people so happy in their marriages and so passionate and in love, and other people hate each other? And I'm talking hate each other. And as a kid, I really looked around and I was like, I don't want that. I mean, I remember marriage scared the heck out of me because I was like, that looks awful to me. Now I understand as a 35-year-old man, it's like, oh, some people's lives actually do get better. Some people's lives get worse, and then they say these are the best years of your life. So, and the difference is who improves and who doesn't. So to answer your original question about happiness versus fulfillment, what if we were taught the goal is happiness, but what if we have the wrong goal, and what if we don't really even know what happiness is? Like, are you happy? I would say, yeah. Do we even really know? And then how do you get happier? Well, is eating donuts making you happy? I think that we get it confused. So I broke it into 3 sections. The first section is joy. And again, this is the formula. The first section is joy. Joy is being in the present moment, enjoying what you're doing. So am I enjoying this right now? Yes. Okay. Number 2 is the trap. It's pleasure. Pleasure, in my opinion, is the trap. And this is coming from someone who grew up in a pleasure-centered paradigm with a lot of alcohol and a lot of fun and barbecues and snowmobiles and stuff like that. And it just is a lot of fun. It is pleasurable to eat donuts, but it's never going to fulfill you. And so number 3 is the most important one. And this is the one that I was never taught, that I wish I was taught, which is fulfillment. I think fulfillment is the soul's recognition of alignment with your highest calling. It's growth and contribution and a meaningful life. And fulfillment comes as a byproduct of doing worthy things toward worthy goals in alignment with your core values. And so for me, I used to live for pleasure without knowing it because I was chasing quote unquote happiness. In my early 20s, it was like achievement and pleasure. And then at 26, after that car accident, I was like, this is not it. There's no way. And so what I figured out the hard way is I was trying to achieve happiness from the outside in. And that never works. You try to contort yourself to be someone you're not, to try to get approval from people that you want to belong with. And this is something we all fall guilty of at times. And instead, what I flipped the script and I decided was I'm going to do it from the inside out. Instead of I'm going to achieve at the expense of my fulfillment to try to get significance or whatever, I'm actually going to design this life from the inside out. And so the last piece I'll share here is, what about you was true 10 years ago that's going to be true 10 years from today? Design your life around that. Do not design your life long-term around things that are short-term pleasures.
Yeah, as you were talking about that, I kept on thinking, well, fleeting are pleasure is fleeting and it's not going to fill your cup, if you will. But it's those things that fulfill you are things that have such an impression on you that it fills your cup, that it really does make you build your character. It's filled with your core values and what your goals are and your mission in life and things like that. So yeah. And you really, I think you're a great example. You have to know pain. You have to know pleasure and joy, and you have to have sorrow to know that. So the trauma that you went through enabled you to know that there was something more that you wanted in your life. For me, when you survive something like that, it means that God has something better for you to do, that there's a reason for you to be here, and it's your obligation to fulfill that.
The existential conversation that you're having right now with me, but also with yourself and with the listeners, is that it's what is the point? What is the meaning? And on one end, you can be nihilistic and say there's no point. We're all just ants, in the grand scheme of things, and we're all going to die one day. And I think that that's a really depressing way to live.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people that live that way. They're like, well, I'll never forget this. I was at a bonfire and I had called someone out because they smoked so many cigarettes. And I had said something along the lines of, why do you still smoke? Like, why? And he's like, well, I'm going to die one day anyway. And I remember thinking, that's got to be the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
I know. I've
It's
met
like,
those people.
right? And I'm not trying to be unkind, but it's like, holy crap, right? That's just illogical. Statistically speaking, the global average life expectancy is 73.8. And it's going to get better most likely with health technological improvements and in healthcare and all that. And to me, it's like, why not have the most positive, meaningful life you can? And I think that's the opposite of nihilism. I think nihilism is hopelessness, where the past is better than your future. To go back to those people who used to say, these are the best years of your life. No, these were the best years of your life because you didn't get any better and you didn't work on yourself. And these people had miserable marriages and miserable careers, and they hated their jobs, and they take no responsibility for it. It's like, listen, you made awful choices. And I have too. I've made so many bad choices. It's not even funny. The difference is I admit it. And when you admit it, you can actually do something about it.
Well, you didn't stay in those choices too. People will stay in those bad situations longer than they need to.
I think we've all been guilty of that. I think some of us take more responsibility than others for our own future. And I hope I encourage everyone through example to take more responsibility for their own future. The bigger, better future and brighter future that you want is possible. And most likely, I mean, unless you're really, really out there. But at the end of the day, I always say this to my clients, like, you can't want a result without the responsibility that comes with it. Everyone wants a great marriage and a great body and a great business. Of course, right? Who doesn't? But do you want the responsibility of tracking finances every day? Do you want the responsibility of going out and selling and getting clients? Do you want the responsibility of checking in with your partner and doing gratitudes every single night? Do you want the responsibility of exercising consistently and hydrating consistently and having the proper nutrition and diet and staying on the rails during the holidays? To me, that's what it comes down to, is take responsibility for your own brighter future and the results that you want. And don't aim for things that you don't want the responsibilities, because if you want Olympic athlete level results, that's great. But you also have to want Olympic athlete level consistency and discipline and work ethic and that kind of thing. And so a lot of times I have clients come to me and they'll tell me their goals and I'll say, are you sure? I know you can do it. That's not the question. The question is, are you going to want this process forever? And I'll share one very brief story of a client. He said, I want the most successful production media company in Canada. And I actually took him at face value. I looked it up, British Columbia Pictures, 60 billion a year. And then I realized later, when we had him tracking 32 habits a day and finances and all that stuff, he's like, I'm miserable. I said, oh, I thought you really wanted to, like, and I looked it up. He's like, oh, I don't want that. I said, you said the most successful media production company in Canada. He's like, oh, no, I meant a couple million. Oh, Well, if that's the case, climbing Mount Everest is supposed to be harder than climbing Mount Wachusett. And what I'm saying is, don't try to climb Everest unless you want everything that comes with it, because it might
Yeah,
not be fulfilling, you know?
yeah. And that kind of leads me to the next question about peak performance, tied to everything you're talking about, self-development and everything. So, in your opinion, why is having that peak performance important?
Um, Peak performance to me is kind of a cool frame because it implies peak meaning like the top of the mountain. As
Mm-hmm.
long as you're climbing the right size mountain for you, and maybe you start with a mole hill and then eventually a bigger mountain, and then you do like 1,000 feet of elevation, then 2,000, then 3,000, and then 4,000. Emilia and I hike a lot, so I think the highest one we've ever done is like 4,800 or something. We've done like 7 or so, and we started small, and we're going from there. And who knows, maybe one day we'll do Everest. I don't know. But at the end of the day, you start somewhere, and peak performance is, to me, doing the best you can now, knowing that you can do better tomorrow. It's
Mm-hmm.
the 5 push-ups today for 7 tomorrow for 10 the next day. And peak implying doing all you can with all you have each day, knowing that over time you'll get better, and knowing that on your worst day, you might only get 3 push-ups,
Mm-hmm.
but you still did your push-ups. And, on your best day, maybe you get 8. And we all have ups and downs and ebbs and flows and highs and lows, but are you doing all you can with all you have? And the last piece of peak performance that I adore is, I think that all of us, if we're honest with ourselves, believe in ourselves at a certain level. Some people believe in themselves at level 10, like Will Smith's an example of that. He's like, why would you ever be realistic? It's like, Will, that's good for you, but other people don't believe in themselves at that same delusional level. And I'm not trying to
Mm-hmm.
call Will delusional, but I think maybe a little. But obviously he's achieved a lot, so good for him. But my point is if you believe in yourself at level 2, do not shoot for level 10 goals. You're going to
Yeah.
crush your self-esteem. You're going to crush your self-belief,
Mm-hmm.
right? And don't do that because it's the fun thing to do. What you should do if you have level 2 belief is shoot for maybe level 2 or 3 goals and then
Yeah.
hit them. And when you hit them, then you build self-belief.
Yeah.
And so when it comes to peak performance, the idea is aim at the highest possible good that you can conceptualize and believe in, and then achieve that, and then rinse and repeat, but up the ante each time. And that's why I love next level as a thing, because there's always a next level no matter how high you climb.
Yeah.
And it's the pursuit of that climb that I think is going to fulfill you.
That's exactly right. And it is a stair step type of thing. And it really demonstrates the power of persistence and consistency in your life, and knowing that those two things are important. And you, I think if you look at things as achievable, going up to the next level is achievable. Going up to the top of the mountain is not realistic. So you can always get those small wins that make your life fulfilled because you've done something. But if you're just striving for something and it's never happening, that's, I think, when you feel unfulfilled.
100%. And I think that a lot of times what people have is we have 3 things. One is wrong time perspective.
Mm.
One is the wrong approach. And the last one is the wrong expectations. So starting a podcast, for example, we produce 55 shows and we coach podcasters. If you want to start a podcast, that's great. But if you think you're going to succeed in 2 or 3 episodes, you have the wrong expectations and you're setting yourself up for a big L. Okay. There's only one of our clients of the 55 shows that was in the top 5 within the first couple weeks. But that's because she already had a big following before podcasting. Right.
Yeah.
And then number 2 is the wrong time perspective, which again kind of goes with number 1. You can succeed for sure in a podcast in a decade, for sure. But in 10 days, no chance. I mean, just no chance. Statistically speaking, there's 5 million podcasts and most of them don't make it past 25 episodes.
Yeah.
And you're not going to be Joe Rogan in 10 days. And then the third one is the wrong approach, which is this idea that you can achieve great results without work is just so hard. I get it, right? You got to focus. Yeah. Okay, good. I'm grateful you're laughing because that one's a tough one for people for some reason. I don't know if it's just the 21st century or not, but and again, Tim Ferriss does great work, but his book, The 4 Hour Work Week, bothers me because, and again, I don't know Tim personally, but I've studied him and I've studied his work and I've studied the way he operates. Tim Ferriss has never worked 4 hours a week in his life. He was grinding 80 hours a week for so long, and he even talks about it. And so I understand the book and the Pareto principle and all that. If you've read the 4 Hour Work Week, to me, that book in the wrong hands is dangerous.
Yeah.
Some college kid who thinks they can only work 4 hours a week and is going to be as successful as Tim Ferriss, that is a bold-faced lie.
Yeah.
And I work hard. I always have, and I always will. And the truth is, hard work is required. Smart work too. Smart work too. But hard work first. You always hear people say, work smart, not hard. It's like, listen, trust me, you need both.
You
need both. Yeah, you've got to do both. Because ironically, you won't work smart until after you work wicked hard and the pain is great enough to actually work smart and innovate.
Well, and I think innovation is really a key there. For me, I think that's why I was successful as a project manager, because I always did the work, but I was always thinking, okay, how can I improve this process to be smarter in doing it? Because I always had something else that I needed to do and be more efficient. My very first job in a one-girl office way back, I had to do bookkeeping and everything. I knew nothing. I was like totally unskilled for this job, but they had believed in me. And so it would take me days and weeks to do things. And then after about 2 months, I was able to get my whole job done in a half a day.
Nice.
But that's because you got to be innovative and creative. And that's actually what made it fun and exciting to do.
And what's
I think
ironic
that's what
is
you have to have that.
you wouldn't have innovated had you not put in the work.
Oh, yeah.
You innovated within the work, right? Rather than this idea that you're going to somehow innovate without any effort. Sorry to interrupt you, but that's something that I think the 21st century is really having a hard time, I think, with that. I think we're losing a little bit of work ethic. And again, I tend to be someone who values work ethic very, very highly. So I realize that, but I've heard that work smart, not hard thing a little too much. And I mentor a lot of younger people, and it's like, listen, I don't know who told you that you don't have to work, but like, listen, do yourself a favor, get work ethic first. If you have work ethic and direction, you have a huge advantage long term.
Yeah, you do. So. I work with the youth too, much younger than probably you're working with middle school and high schoolers. And
nice.
Yeah, that's a great message to share with them. And I believe leading by example is key for those of us that are mentors to be able to really change the way the world will be.
Same. I admire that very much, by the way. That's great that you do that for kids.
So it's time for us to actually move on to sharing my slide. This time has flown by. There's so much that you've shared today, great information. So if you all that are listening or watching would like to know how to connect with Alan, I'll be sharing my contact information slide. And if you are listening, you know the drill. You should have been taking notes all along with your paper and pencil or whatever you do to take notes. But if you didn't, please go run and get that paper and pencil now. If not, if you're driving, I understand. It will be on my YouTube channel and my findyourleadership.com site. And here you go. So for website, you go to www.nextleveluniverse.com. Again, that's nextleveluniverse.com. On Facebook, you can find him at alan.lazaros. Instagram is A Lazarus 88. A like Apple, Lazarus 88, the number. LinkedIn is Alan Lazaros LLC. I can talk today. YouTube is at Next Level University, and we all want to give a shout out to YouTube for figuring out how to get away from those crazy
I
URLs that they
know.
had. Love it.
So true.
So much easier. I'm going to turn it over to you, Alan, to talk about what is available on your website that will help your audience to grow and get to the next level.
First and foremost, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. This has been really wonderful. Such a breath of fresh air. I love the conversation. On the website, so we have a business we now grew quite a bit. So we have a 20-person team.
Awesome.
We have 23 departments, and one of them is a charity, actually.
Awesome.
And for kids, it's called the Next Level Hope Foundation, and we do 2 events a year with the kids. It's awesome. But anyways, so on the website, everything is there. There's tabs we have a book club. We have monthly meetups that we do for free. There's tons of free stuff, but there's also some paid stuff. The paid thing that you're referring to on this slide is my business coaching. So if you want to start a podcast, you want to start a business, if you want to get to the next level in your life, I mean, I have one client who's trying to have me help her quit drinking. And then I have one client who's trying to grow and scale a multi-million-dollar business and everything in between. My youngest client is 18. My oldest client is 63. And so everything in between, all different countries, all different backgrounds, all different cultures. I just surpassed my 5,000th hour-long coaching session. So I've been doing this for a long time, even though I still look 15. And here's what I'll tell you. There's a gift in me that I'm so excited to share with all of you, which is I can take a goal that you want to achieve and reverse engineer it. I'm a computer engineer. I'm a math and science brain, and I can help you create the habits now and the strategic moves that you need to get to the goals and the dreams that you want. And, I can help you aim at the right height. Some people aim too high and never get there because they don't really want the lifestyle that comes with that or the responsibility. Some people aim way too low and they hit, and they need to aim higher. One client I'm thinking of right now is a corporate lawyer. He's amazing, triathlete, all this stuff. And I said, honestly, you got to aim higher, in my opinion. You're kind of, this is easy for you. This is easy street. His life would be magnificent for some people, but for him, it's pretty easy. He's coasting. And so whether you want to aim higher or potentially, realign, I'm your guy.
Awesome. So if you feel that you need to talk with Alan, please go to his website and connect. Alan, it has been great chatting with you. You're just a breath of fresh air, lots of areas that we're aligned. I'd love to talk more about what you do with the youth on your charity arm, because I've been working with the youth since 2011, and it is a passion for me to help them find their voice and become stronger leaders. I always tell them that I have 2 grandboys, and the world will be led by those that I'm teaching now, and I want to make sure it's a great place for my grandboys. So
very, very nice. My timer's going off. I apologize for that. I think the future's bright. I am an optimist. I think we're going to have challenges. I think about leadership all the time. I've got lead people, design systems, and track metrics right over here on my notebook. That's my focus every single day. And the charity that we do, Next Level Hope Foundation, all the information's on the website, but essentially that's what it's about. Is Kevin and I grew up without fathers. My father passed away when I was 2. His father left when he was born, and we do a Father's Day event. And we also do a holiday event. And we actually just did the holiday event. We rent out the YMCA, and we all play sports, and we do arts and crafts. And really the idea is hopefully we can rub off on the kids who are and help out the single parents during the holidays, and make Father's Day, which was traditionally a really sad day for him and I, into something really fun. And at the end of the day, I want to be a male role model. And the very last thing I'll say, I promise, is I want to be the male role model that I never had. And to your point about leading by example, that is it. If you have to lead by example, because there's so many people out there watching. They're always watching. And unfortunately, there's so many people who are talking a big game and not walking. And anyone who ever sees me doing that, you can call me out.
Awesome. Well, as always, I remind everyone that life is a journey, and it's up to you to enjoy the ride. This is Vicki Noethling, signing off.
Thank you for tuning into the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Noethling. where we share impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Remember to visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast.